Warning, this podcast typically features spoilers and strong opinions. Proceed with caution.
Hi all, before we start this episode, just want to give a content warning. We talk about some pretty sensitive materials related to the show, Baby Reindeer, so keep that in mind.
Especially like violent and sexual themes.
Yes, enjoy the episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Two Grooms, One Plot, the podcast where two lifelong storytellers talk about stories.
We're married.
We also happen to be married. Is that a selling point?
I don't know.
I
It's part of the
think
title.
it is. It's part of the
explaining
thing. It's like the whole, we're like, but they're like married to each other.
Yeah, we are married, yes.
We're not just like two married people. We're like actually married.
Yeah,
anyway.
we're married to each other.
Hi, I'm Pavi
Was that not
Proczko. I don't know. I'm Pavi Proczko, audiobook narrator, author, performer.
And I'm Colin Funk, childhood development expert and teaching artist.
And today we're going to be talking about Baby Reindeer.
Reindeer.
Ooh. But first, we have our moment of the week.
Uh-huh.
What do you got?
I want to talk about Titanic.
Very nice.
So while we just got back from Guatemala. Fun wellness retreat by the Taylor Cut, by the way. Shout out
Taylor Cut.
But we flew to Guatemala from New York, so we decided to spend the day in New York the day before we flew out. And we're like, well, we're in New York, we'll see some friends, we'll see a show. But we were getting in super early and leaving super early the next day, so we wanted a earlier show. Titanic had a 5 p.m. showing, and it was just like, was it like
an hour and a half,
100 minutes?
Yeah, something like that.
Just over an hour and a half, so short. I'm like, great, we'll have time to rest, sleep afterward. It's great. So we decided to see Titanic, which is so stupid. In the best way. I say that with love.
Yeah.
It is like a retelling of the Titanic but from Celine Dion's perspective, as if she was on the actual ship.
Right. It's like the tagline is nothing could come between their love except Celine Dion. It's just so stupid. It is the stupidest thing.
So it's Celine Dion is narrating this like very silly version of the Titanic, and it's just like packed full of Celine Dion songs, and it's hilarious and stupid and funny. And I think, I don't know, it's like, it is a show full of moments, so it's like picking a moment, it's tough. But I think one of the things that sold me was when the iceberg comes on and it's a character, but it's played by Tina. Like the character of the iceberg is Tina Turner, who is the iceberg, played by the character who is also like the second hand, like the first mate of the ship or whatever,
the seaman.
Whatever his title is. But like that character plays so many people, and then but he does an impression of Tina Turner, but he had already done an impression of whoever Celine Dion did Beauty and the Beast with. I forget his name. But like the range of wacky things these actors have to go through, and like then he's just Tina Turner and kills it. I was like, wow, that's a pretty good Tina Turner impression. After you've done like 100 other things in the show.
Tina Turner is the
iceberg, and she goes after them,
stupid.
And she becomes RuPaul and makes them lip sync for their life. It's a lot.
It's a lot of
It
stuff.
Sounds like a lot of things, but it like weirdly all works because it's all just stupid. So that I had to talk about Titanic.
Yes,
it's so dumb.
Oh man,
what is your moment?
I've been playing a video game that I'd had my eyes on for a while, and it's called Biomutant.
Cute.
And so you play like this little like raccoon thing that is apparently like the new like dominant species of Earth.
Oh, okay.
Is what it turns out.
It's like Planet of the Apes.
It's kind of, it's like, yeah, and it's like the humans have left. They like went on spaceships somewhere, but now all these like little raccoon things are walking around and they've got like magic powers and stuff.
Sure.
And it's like there's like all these like different words for like there's the remnants of civilization are there.
Mm-hmm.
And then their civilization's on top of it. So it's like you see like railroad tracks.
Yeah.
It's like
so like Planet
artifacts.
of the Apes still. Yeah.
Great. But what's interesting is that the entire story is narrated by like this like British voice.
Okay.
And so even like there's little like sounds when you like talk to other people.
Because you're a raccoon?
Because you're a raccoon and they're raccoons and you just go like back and forth. But then it's like translated for my benefit by this like British voice.
Oh.
And so, but it's like, oh, he says that blah, 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 blah. Oh, he thinks that blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's narrated by this voice. And then there's the moment when I realize who it is. And it's like this little grasshopper that follows you around. It's like this little like machine that like is just like your guide. But it's like, it has like a parachute and it has like a little like turret on it. It's like, it just helps you. It's like a little pet.
Did you say a turret?
A turret. Little gun.
Oh.
It'll like shoot things for you.
Not like a tower turret.
Not like a tower. No. Like a, well, I mean, it's like a gun tower sort of, but it's like a little, anyway.
What?
It's the little grasshopper that like talks to you and like gives you information about like what the world was like and what happened to the world. And it was like the moment that I realized that it was little grasshopper. It's like a little while into the game and I was like, oh, you don't know the grasshopper. You don't know who's talking. Okay. Like the whole time I'm like, who is this person that's narrating?
Did you just notice yourself? Or is there like a moment that happens?
Well, there's like a moment where it was like the first moment when you start learning about kind of like the world at large.
Okay.
And then the perspective is like your little raccoon person is like looking just at like this poster, but then like the little grasshopper is there and it's like talking to you.
Oh, there's like a zoom in.
Kinda. Yeah. A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So this is,
just like realizing who the narrator is. And it's like the little grasshopper.
And then it's not just like
disembodied
voice. It's actually like
this little
a functional
machine
thing in the world.
Yeah. I thought that was an interesting choice for a narrator.
It's more integrated
than I thought it was going to be.
Yes, into the world than just like it's like fourth wall breaking.
Right.
It's not. It's part of the
and it's doing both, where it's like it's part of the world and also breaking the fourth wall because it's like it's for my benefit because theoretically the raccoon can understand the other raccoons.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like they understand their little me. I don't as the player, and so now there's like a British voice that's talking to me.
Okay.
But it's talking to my raccoon. Right. It's really, there's a lot of like meta stuff going on.
Sure.
It's interesting, I think, the idea of like narration and storytelling in video games because of that separation where it's you are playing a character, but there's also the player is kind of separate from the character, even though you kind of embody that person. In different games explore that differently.
Right. I mean, I imagine that being so... it sounds a lot like what they're doing in terms of storytelling devices in lit RPG. They're like stealing some of those devices and doing it that way. And that, I guess, like in both cases, it's like they would be the same effectiveness.
Yeah. Where it's like the information prompts you get in a lit RPG book are narrated out loud for like the benefit of the person who's not able to just like read a sheet.
Sure.
Yeah, it's similar.
But it's like, I'm more successful when it's more integrated, I guess.
Yeah. So that's my moment. Thought it'd be time to get another video game in.
Sure.
Shout out.
Maybe we got to do like a full video game episode.
Yes, we do. We'll have to think about it.
Yeah.
I think that's it for our moment of the week. Let's move on to the episode proper, yeah?
The episode?
Our episode? This one?
Oh, this episode.
This
I thought you were
episode.
saying
No.
No, because
Baby Reindeer.
We're doing the full.
We're doing the full series,
series
of Baby Reindeer.
Because it's
Yeah,
it's a
limited series.
limited series. It's not going to go on. I don't think.
God, I hope not. So switch hit synopsis.
Let's do it.
Yeah. We'll keep it quick.
Okay.
Keep it quick and short. Quick and short.
Yeah.
So we've got Donnie,
Got Donnie.
and
He's working as a bartender.
he's working as a bartender, and
It opens on Martha entering the bar.
yeah, and she's like really pathetic, and he shows some kindness to her, and then she ends up being enamored to him, and then just stalks him.
Yeah. And he likes the attention.
He kind of encourages it
He's
sometimes.
He's trying to work himself up to be a comedian.
Yep.
And he's liking this attention from this woman and kind of feeds into it
Right.
at times. And
So we get a lot of like these moments where we're like, why are you doing that? Oh my God, you just told us you didn't like it or that there was a mistake and then you still did it. And then we kind of figure out why. The fourth episode, where we see kind of like this flashback that seems completely unrelated for a second. Because now we get the real story.
we get a real story, I guess.
Sure. That like, why is he the kind of person that is taking this attention, and it's because he's been sexually abused by this mentor
Yes.
during the Fringe Festival.
Yeah, he had met some producer
Mm-hmm.
who was like, come write with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they're writing together, he's like, while we write, we do drugs.
Yeah, we do drugs, and then
Find out like he's been
he's getting roofied basically.
Mhm.
And so then he's like constantly, it seems, chasing that.
Yeah, he leans into that for a while, thinking that like, okay, I'll let this happen, hoping that this will lead to, like really
Right.
like taking the bait and feeling like something's gonna come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
And then meanwhile, he's like having this sexual either
So he was-
change or epiphany where he's like also insecure about liking this trans woman and dating
so
men and women.
but
and-
that's like afterwards. So like he's dating this woman because he's living at this woman's mom's house.
yeah.
And that's happening during this whole sexual assault episode.
Yeah. He's like living with his ex.
Post that thing, like back into the normal timeline. Yes, in normal timeline, he's like having this like, I don't understand my sexuality. So experimenting sexually with all genders and starts like makes a fake profile on a trans dating website and starts dating this trans woman and is lying to her.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets caught up with the stalker,
Right.
because like not only does he not want this trans woman to find out like the real details of his life because he's lied on his profile about his job and his name,
Right.
and on top of it he has a stalker who he doesn't want to come into contact with because she's a loose cannon.
Right.
And so we're watching all of these lies and all of these things where
It's compounding a lot, and it just
Very
gets
stressful.
deeper and deeper into his life, where it's this stalker ends up contacting his ex and embeds herself into his daily life, where she's just like outside his house. She starts calling his parents, sending him thousands of emails, 40,000 emails or something like that in the span of 2 years, and
it's crazy.
and it's just
And it keeps escalating.
It escalates.
And we keep seeing moments where he feeds into the escalation instead of like taking some easier paths to get out of it.
Right.
And we're watching this like relationship with this trans woman have ups and downs at the same time as him like trying to get away from this stalker, but also like not really just like making a full break. He hasn't quit his job. He hasn't like really been that forthcoming with the police, the authorities.
Yeah,
so
he keeps withholding some things. He is as fascinated with her in the end,
right,
as she is with him.
He ends up having this like breakdown moment during a comedy competition, and sort of admits to a lot of things that have been happening, admits to like the sexual assault that happened, and because he's been, he's failing at this his comedy competition, that gains some popularity because somebody captures it online and films it, and then like from there he's like, oh, I get to be a comedian now.
Gets a little bit of fame and success.
Reconnects with his parents, and then Martha just like shows back up and like really leans in and is threatening his family. And
eventually, I don't remember what's the thing that really tips him over. It's some threat to.
I think it was threat to his parents.
I thought it was a threat to the ex-girlfriend. Anyway, there's something happens that it's like a threat to somebody that is close to him, pushes him over the edge, and he finally delivers all of his like the evidence needed to basically get her arrested, because she is a known stalker. We find out that pretty early on, but that she has done this before, and the police have their eye on her, but she ends up getting imprisoned again, found guilty of intimidation and stalking and all this stuff.
Right.
And then in the end, Donnie is kind of left alone, bereft of this attention, and he even goes back to confront his abuser, sort of. And then the show ends with him in a similar position to Martha, at a bar without money, having ordered a drink and not being able to pay for it. Right. And then the bartender showing him kindness, allowing him to have a drink, and then blackout. That's the show.
It seems like it kind of ends on him deciding to write the show.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of
because he had gone through all this like time period of trying to make sense of what happened.
Right. And that's an interesting place maybe to start here. So he's so
this is okay. So let's start. Did we mention already that this is based on a true story?
Based on a true story.
Yes. Where the man, Robert Gadd. Richard Gadd?
I don't remember. Let's look.
Yeah, you look. He has experienced this thing. This is his life experience that Richard Gadd. Richard Gadd took this experience from his life and wrote a one-man show, which he performed at the Fringe Festival, and eventually that was picked up and became this Netflix series, because Netflix loves doing like true crime things. Right. And this is like it's a wild story filled with so many different weird layers. And there's like almost like a whimsical element to it.
There is. Yeah.
Like in the story itself, of course, in the way they did it, they like made it feel a little bit more whimsical, which is so odd.
Yeah. Something stuck in my craw about this show.
Oh.
And so I remember there was like this I had a teacher in theater school that...
Did you know?
I did. I had a few. And theater school is a weird place. So
They highlighted a little bit.
It is highlighted a little bit. And this kind of gets to my point.
This is
the craw. So we were told that every experience we have is like fodder for your work, for content.
Yes.
You take that tragedy that has occurred to you and you like wrap it up in your little thing and you put it in your little keepsake, and then you can bring it out later when you have your performance that you need to use.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I don't like that. I think it's like there is an element of like personal experience that we bring to our performances.
Well,
and that's like the whole
you can't
thing.
help it.
Right,
Obviously,
we can't help that. Of course, you write what you know, you act what you know, etc.
Yeah,
but there's something that bothers me about this man creating this, like highlighting this story of his.
Yeah.
For, I mean, his benefit, really, in the end. But it's like, how are you still a victim if you have the most watched show on Netflix?
Okay.
Even if it's about your victimhood?
Yeah, but I mean,
as the actor who's in it, and also, like, these are theoretically, like, it's portrayed as a true story. These are theoretically real people. We see, what's his name? Piers Morgan interviews the woman who's apparently, Fiona Harvey, who's apparently supposed to be like the real Martha. And it's like, you watch this thing and she is obviously unwell. And who knows if it's real?
I mean, that is wild.
We're going to take it as real because we've been told it's a true story and it's from his perspective. But now her life's getting blown up, and even someone is apparently like getting pointed at to be the guy that was the supposed abuser.
Sure.
And it's just like this, it has the potential and perhaps has already kind of gotten away from him, where it's like, once you put that story out into the world, you don't really own it anymore. It's like, it's out there. And, you know, even seeing interviews with Richard Gadd, where we see him kind of be a little bit uncomfortable with even trying to like broach some of these things. Where he's like, no, it lives in the realm of fiction, and let's just like leave it there. And he doesn't want to like get too deep into the truth of it, because it's like, well, it's just a story. It's just like, it's a storification of this thing that may or may not have happened to me, right? It's real, but it's not real. But we're going to take it as real, and now we're going to blow up these people's lives. And I think there's something really messed up about it.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
Is it my turn to talk now?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts about lots of things you said.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where to start. We talked about a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the ethics of it. The ethics of this, of doing this story, playing the lead, doing his own story.
Is it a problem that it is a story and not just a straight up documentary? If he just did a straight up documentary about his experience, would you feel different? Does he not have a right to tell the story?
Yes, I guess I'm not necessarily talking about rights.
You talking about ethics?
Yeah, that's different than like
is
whether
it not
you
ethical
can.
to tell? Should people that have gone through these experiences not tell the stories if it's going to be implicating to other people?
I don't know. It depends. How true is it? It depends. Like we're leaving it up to the jury of like public opinion.
We're leaving what up to the jury of public opinion?
Like this Martha woman, right? It's like,
how is it leaving it up to public opinion in a different way than a news story does?
A news story theoretically is following kind of journalistic standards.
Okay, and who's checking on those?
I mean, theoretically, journalists would be doing that, and there are institutions that do that. If we're looking at a piece of
who's
fiction,
to say that like Netflix and Richard aren't doing things to
I mean, they might have, but it is not billed as that. It is not billed as here is a expose journalistically about this thing. It is, here is a story and I'm telling you a story.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. If it's different that it is like a fictionalized version.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So since it's fictionalized, I guess part of that seems to me from some of what the conversation around it from Richard, some of the team around it, it sounds like some of it was changed specifically to protect people or like to not implicate certain people or certain places or certain things. And then on top of it, it's just like also this extraordinary experience from this person's life that they want to tell very specifically from their perspective as they lived through it. And not tell the story in that sort of news expose way. I mean, should they have, I don't know. I'm not seeing a huge ethical, like, yes,
I don't know
maybe, like, is it unethical because, like, he didn't try to out that person's identity. Fiona Harvey, I mean, some people, like, did some, like, we think it might be this person based on tweets, but Fiona Harvey came out and she's like, it's me.
Right.
Like, it was very clearly, I don't, like.
Yeah. I guess there isn't like a should have done differently that I'm necessarily can like put it out into the universe. It's more like I'm watching this and wondering how messed up he must be, which to be fair, he is like shows that in the show for sure.
He's clearly,
but it's like there's like so many levels. Not only is it messed up where we're watching him like be this attention whore and try to like get it's like the show itself is
okay, but
the thing
but
too.
Also it is also, it's weirdly, it's like meta in that it's like it's a warning against itself.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, like what you were talking about, like it's like kind of directly, maybe not directly addressed, but like this idea that the arts are telling you, oh, have these experiences. And like part of him, I'm sure, from his actor training is like part of that's why he wants to lean into these. Comedians are looking for crazy, weird things to happen to them.
Yeah.
Like we have watched so many stand-ups and we're like, well, we can't do stand-up. Nothing great like that. What is that story?
Yeah.
Nothing like that's ever happened to me.
Right.
And stand-up comics have like story after story after story.
Right.
And we don't know how much is real and how much is literally fictionalized. It could just be straight up made up. And yes, this is obviously longer form. And yes, we are like pointing to real life people. But I think there is a little bit of like, this is how stupid I was. I made all of these bad decisions because I wanted this kind of crazy thing to happen to me.
Yes.
And so it feels like a warning against that sort of behavior. It's literally showing that attitude is exactly the thing that gets him into all the trouble.
Yeah.
It is the antagonist in the story. You know what I mean? Like it is.
Sure.
So
meanwhile, he's in the most watched Netflix show, starring in it as himself, having experienced this thing.
There is a reason why people give that advice.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that is exciting.
And it's messed up.
It's
really messed up. It's just like, I like trying to wrap my head around kind of like the I don't know, the hubris of it or the ego, or I don't know. It's like he's in the show playing a fictionalized version of himself, having experienced this thing already and doing it again, and gonna make a shit ton of money and fame for it.
Sure.
And that's it. It bothers me.
I guess I'm wondering why it bothers you.
I don't know. I mean,
people tell their stories and make lots of money all the time.
Yeah. And you get to kind of control your narrative as you tell it.
Yeah. And part of the narrative is that some of these people do some really terrible, scary, bad things, including himself.
Yeah.
But the other people in the show.
Sure.
And we've now pointed to people in real life. And that was never the intention of the show.
Yeah. I mean, that's the danger of any memoir, right? It's like any memoir can...
Absolutely. We're seeing... that's so huge and right now. Memoirs popping up and being like, oh, did you read this one line in this one person's memoir? Ooh, I bet that's a reference to this other celebrity because they had a relationship for 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Does it scale? When we're talking about a memoir and we know that, 100,000 people bought that memoir and read it and it's like circulates for like a minute. Does it scale when it's suddenly like 100 million people?
Does what exactly scale?
Obviously
there is a scale to it. Are we talking about ethics?
I'm talking about kind of like the cavalierness of like, well, I mean, that's the same with any memoir, right? Like any memoir, you're going to have the danger of like being able to point to real people in the world because it tells you something.
I guess let's look at it in its actual context where it started as a fringe festival one-man show.
Yeah. In that case, I mean, it won a bunch of stuff, but it like didn't make a big splash. It's the Fringe Festival.
It is. I mean, Fringe Festival is a big deal.
It's a big deal, sure.
But
and
it's not like
all these things.
Like, how many non-theater people in the U.S. have even heard of the Fringe Festival?
Right. Yeah. On that scale, it maybe still doesn't feel so bad to me.
Absolutely. I guess like
as the audience grows, it's like we're almost playing by different rules. I'm not sure we can.
Are we talking about ethical rules? I'm
kind of
like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, like it doesn't scale. It changes. Kind of what feels icky. I mean, it's still a little icky if he's like doing it Fringe, but it's like, you get to tell your story. It's like no one's looking at Maya Angelou telling her not to write her poems. Granted, they're poetry, it's like not necessarily going into detail about her abuses and
right.
and tragedies, but it's I
guess like what about like the Monica Lewinsky fictionalized documentary?
I don't know. I didn't see it.
But like things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, is it because like he played himself?
That's part of it.
Part of it.
That is part of it. Like I wonder.
I mean, like, what if he sold the rights to this story? What if he didn't tell anyone it was a true story? What if?
Yeah, like what if someone else wrote it? What if he wrote something evoking these things, but it wasn't the story?
Yeah, then it wouldn't be as popular. Obviously, like that's
part of the selling point. That is right.
Okay, so I guess like we're going off on a big tangent about kind of like the ickiness and the ethics.
Yeah.
And I know that's part of like the story experience.
Mm-hmm.
But like can we like switch to like the storytelling?
Yeah.
Like can we take?
Sure. And I guess it's related because it's interesting related, having the actual person ostensibly be in it telling us the story.
Yes.
And there's
I think like having him in it affects the storytelling as well as it does feel it brings the one-man show aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because people do that all the time. They like have a one-person show and they're telling their own story from their experience, and
Right.
it is like they are the narrator and they're telling their own story live, and so you're getting it very viscerally, like through them.
Right.
And I think that's what they're trying to do in the story too. I obviously think there is some bleed into like, well, we're going to be sympathetic for that person because we know that's the person, even if he's like being really, like he's being very truthful about his own, right? But he's being truthful about his destruction. Like he's not like, I mean, who knows how much he hid
His
about like
self-sabotage,
but he was pretty honest about his part in it. It seems.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, we're still gonna lean toward him just because we know that's him and that's his story, and you know what I mean. Like, we are gonna feel more sympathetic toward that person, I think, no matter what.
Do you think that that's why we feel sympathetic exclusively? Like, imagine if someone else was playing him. Is the character likable enough to find him sympathetic throughout without knowing it's the guy?
I don't know if it has to be likable. I mean, maybe. That's a good question. I think there is something to the like the getting caught up in the thing, and I think there is. I think it was a very good choice for him to be so honest about his own part in it.
Of course, yeah.
And if that character wasn't honest about, like, it's not just the person, but like, or the Richard playing himself. It's also that character was honest as well.
Yes. Yeah. Richard's not only being honest, but the character is being honest with us.
Right. It's just like we find Martha sympathetic, even though she does terrible things.
Yes.
They both, we see them kind of like very complexly, deeply, both of them. They're both very different, but like we are seeing lots of different,
like mostly different, just kind of on the outside. On the inside, they seem to be.
I mean, there's
peas in a pod.
Some weird connection. I mean, that's part of the fascination with it,
right?
Where it feels like he sets it up where he's like, neither of us are really that different from each other, or neither of us are better or worse. I'm not, because like he starts the opening line, which he types later, is the first feeling I felt for like the first thing I felt was like pity.
Yeah.
Essentially. Something like that,
yeah.
Which is just like him in this like he's already in like down in his luck and not having a good time in his life and failing in comedy, but he's like looking at other people and looking down at that. He's like, he's already like, what a great opening line where he's like already setting up this dynamic where he's like kind of a shitbag.
Yeah.
But also sympathetic.
Right.
And how those like play off of each other.
Yeah.
It sets up his character and Martha's character kind of like at the same time.
Yeah.
But I think I think it's not just that. I think it is a very interesting dynamic character. I think it helps that it happened in real life. So it really is. And with the honesty of like the mistakes that he makes and the regrets that he has, like it makes it feel so real in a very like uncomfortable way, and like a lot of the time, because there's like real life situations.
Yeah,
it's like there's a lot of uncomfortable things that happen in a way that I'm like, yeah, it's cringy, but if that's what happened,
right?
I don't know. It doesn't feel like this isn't for shock value. It's literally what happened, or an approximation. Like
right.
If anything, it feels toned down.
Yeah, we're not looking to embellish necessarily here, or at least that's the vibe we get.
Right.
Who knows how much he's embellished? I have no idea.
Knows? We don't know.
And that's, I guess maybe that's like part of, not to harp on it, but part of what gives me icks is that it's portrayed as
think-
like, this is a true story, is what it says. And we don't know, actually, if it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's as true as any true story, though.
Sure. Yeah. Without the rigor of investigation, blah, 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 blah. But
Yeah.
as a story, I think that it's an interesting, there's like a rise and a fall, or he's already fallen. Like we see him kind of down on his luck. And as you mentioned, like his first line is like about how he's like feels this pity. And it's interesting that we see him write that line when he's like at his lowest later on in the story.
Sure.
Like he writes it when he's even worse. And even by then is kind of Martha already. There is a real, like you get a sense of kind of transformation or like a switching of roles almost. Where you have, you know, she is obsessed with him and she is sending him messages and obsessing about all the things that he's doing. And then eventually you find him with his like, you know, beautiful mind puzzle of all the Martha things on his wall. And he is as obsessed with her. He's listening to all of the voicemails that she's left him. Thousands and thousands of them. And he's categorizing them and he's like color coding them based on the emotions. And we get to even see like the bits of the I don't know, the kind of, he likes some of it, like some of it's sweet, some of it's like touching and intimate and open.
It's, I mean, I love that. I mean, like this whole thing, I love those moments where we're like, yeah, it's not black and white.
Yeah.
Of course he likes this attention from this person.
Right.
It's not just, this person isn't just a villain.
Yeah. And I think that's, I wonder about that as far as storytelling too, where there is it feels very one-man showy actually in this sense, where it's, we are designed in the show to feel how he felt at the beginning, right? It's like, oh God, she's stalking me. Oh, it's uncomfortable. All these uncomfortable things. And then later on, we are shown more of what had been happening.
Yeah.
And we see more of the sweeter moments, which ostensibly have been happening this whole time.
Well,
we just aren't shown them
some of them
necessarily.
From the beginning.
Yeah, a few.
We see how endearing she is kind of at the beginning.
Yeah, some of it, yeah.
But but there is a nice build where we're seeing like the rise of like the intensity of things, but also like
kind of
more
softening
too. It's
he softens to her as it goes, where he's like,
Yeah,
oh my God, it's all messed up. And then he's like, you see how he kind of falls into loving her to some extent.
Well, it's so interesting because like I feel like when you're writing a story, there's so many instances where you're like, why wouldn't you just do this? Like, why wouldn't this character just do this? This is like the easier thing to do,
right?
And will an audience believe when this happens,
right?
Like when a character chooses to do this and not this. And there's so many instances where if this wasn't based on a true story, I'd be like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's because it's based on a true story. I'm like, yeah, because people really behave that way.
Right.
People don't behave in ways that are narratively convenient.
Right. Or consistent.
Right. People are not consistent.
Right.
So taking a story like this, it really stretches an audience's ability to kind of like go along with it.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard. That's why I think that's why we write our own narratives and really like we weed out things that don't make sense to our identity.
Right.
And those are the things like the the regrets and taking the responsibilities for when these terrible things are happening when someone else is doing terrible things.
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy to give the blame to someone else in our brain,
Right.
because we don't want to take on the negative.
Right.
We want to write our identities in a way that makes sense to us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, I'm kind. I want to help this person, or it's
Right.
really hard to kind of build your own bad habits and bad decisions and bad behaviors into your own story.
Yeah.
Because you can't write everything into your story, and why would you? If you can make sense of it
Without those pieces?
without those things,
Yeah.
you'll weed them out. So it's very interesting to see it,
Yeah.
and for it to be kind of like there's an element of self-reflection in the storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
It's a like it is in itself an investigation.
Yeah.
In not just like the situation, but maybe Martha's way of being, maybe like her inner workings, but also like that's kind of like the way in. I think it makes sense that like that's his way in to start writing the story that like really looks at his inner workings.
Right. Yeah. Because it's like that. It's really kind of, if the crux is, why didn't I come to the police sooner?
Yeah.
That's like the real kind of crux of the story here, because that's what you're talking about with like
There's so many. I mean, it's not just that. Why didn't I come to the police sooner? It's why didn't I say this to the police?
Of course,
why
yes.
didn't I give this evidence when they asked for it?
But it's
why
that
didn't, like
that
over and
feeling,
over and over.
yeah, that feeling overall. It's like, why didn't I do something about this?
But how many times in real life are you like, oh, I should have just done that really easy thing right there.
Yeah.
I guess I'll wait 20 years. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
but
and
it happens so frequently in real life that things pass you by, and we find excuses, and we find ways to.
Right. And that's what you're talking about with
Exactly.
like writing your story, where it's like we have a hard time making sense of those things. We want to either ignore that or be like, oh, that's not an important part of the story.
Right.
He's opened his story basically with that question,
Yes.
where he's like, it's going to seem like I'm inconsistent for a while. You'll see I'm not, interestingly. But
it's interesting.
But for now, you're going to be really frustrated at first. Why didn't I say something? Why didn't I nip this in the bud? We'll get there.
Yeah.
And so we keep
it's
going.
interesting that like it's not chronological, the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the way the story progresses, it doesn't feel meandering. There's moments where you're like, I'm not sure what's happening now and what this has to do. But like in terms of like feeling like a story in a story structure way, it doesn't feel like we are like this doesn't like it feels like it's taking us on the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And with the right ups and downs, like the build is there.
Yeah.
Even though we're I think it's like the craft of it and how he like takes in old stuff and brings it in,
Mm-hmm.
and how it doesn't start. It wouldn't make sense to start chronologically.
It doesn't start at the beginning, right? Yeah. It's the just the not just in case, it's just in time, right? Like
Sure.
we only know, it's a really good example of telling the audience only the information they need to know when they need to know it.
Right.
That's it. And based on like the transformation he's hoping to convey, he can't start at the beginning. It's gives away too much.
Right.
We need to see kind of like, well, here's the interesting kind of action of like, here's the action of the story is this stalker. That's what I'm talking about.
And it almost parallels his mental journey in that like he actually hasn't processed this in his own identity story yet.
Right.
He's kind of left that behind and not really, it's not part of his story at that point.
Yeah.
And that's not the story. That's like the past, the sexual abuse. That's not the story. The story is like, oh, what happens when this person comes into my life and the things that happen. And weirdly, the stuff about the sexual abuse doesn't become relevant in his life, in actual real life.
Right.
Until he's into that, until it's like,
right.
He's confronting the effects of it.
Right. So then we are shown in episode 4 this flashback from way before we've ever met.
And maybe chronologically,
Martha.
that's when he's processing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's, so like maybe it is like chronological in that way.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't know why this is happening, but it's really made me kind of like go back and reflect on this part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because it like all kind of culminates at the, like if we don't have that piece, it totally doesn't make sense when he has that breakdown on the stage.
Yeah.
But it totally makes sense for him to have that breakdown when like in the middle of this like Martha thing, like that's what's like, he keeps coming back to this experience and how it like ripped open his life and why he was so willing to fall into this unique relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really good example of use of backstory. Really, you don't need to give backstory all the time. It's like we don't have to know any of it.
No.
For 3 full episodes, we don't need to know any of it.
But we're only told because it actually does make a difference.
It makes a difference. Yeah. Now we can no longer actually move forward until you know this.
Right.
And that's like, maybe that's like the script writers should have in their mind. We actually can't move forward from this point until you know this. That is the point at which you give the information.
Yeah.
You don't give it before then.
So refrain on using any sort of backstory.
Kinda.
Like that's a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Any sort of storyteller could use. Like don't tell backstory unless you get to that point in the story. And you're like, oh, I realize I need to explain something really quick so you know what's going to happen.
Right. And that is the point at which you insert the story.
Yes.
That's when we know.
Because otherwise, if it happens before the inciting incident, I guess, then it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
We will read into it. We will know unless we actually need to know.
Right. Yeah.
We'll fill it in with our own brains.
Yeah. We don't need a prologue to it ends up being too lifelike. And then we have to start like making sense of everything as we go. It ends up confusing the story.
Yeah.
It ends up making it confusing.
But this story doesn't do that.
No, it doesn't.
It tells the story really interesting. And I think like, again, that's how a one-man show is tough.
Mm-hmm. But a good one-man show is never going to be chronological, I don't think.
No, because you have to do it. It has to be kind of...
It's kind of stream of conscious.
Absolutely.
Because you're following... I think the good gauge is that inciting incident, right? It's like the inciting incident is Martha walks in.
Yeah.
You know, it's like she walks into the bar. That has to be the inciting incident.
And that he has like an immediate reaction to this person.
Mm-hmm. It spurs him to do something.
It's actually like a very interesting first scene.
Mm-hmm.
The first scene is very interesting.
Yeah.
So much happens in it.
Mm-hmm. And you don't like that
and it's like micro.
Yeah.
It's all...
And you don't even realize
here.
how much is going to come from it. It's invisible. That invisible kind of... You don't even know, but the crisis is already here, and you just don't see it yet.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting storytelling.
Yeah, it's really well crafted.
I think so too. I think just in general, the way they told the story, I'm sure the one-man show, I'm not surprised that was like taken off. It has any semblance of this Netflix. Like, it is so interesting and so engaging. And
it's so fringe.
It is very fringe. Especially to watch him tell it as a one-man show would have been very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And I think, so just like the story itself and the way it's kind of put together is very interesting. But then adapting it to the Netflix series, what they did with the camera work was very interesting. The costuming was very interesting.
Mm-hmm. What about the camera work? What do you?
There's so
referring
many
to?
like the camera's moving a lot.
Yeah.
It's moving away from him. It's moving toward him. You know, like it feels like he's like flying off the train when he's leaving his date behind.
Oh yeah.
Things are like sliding past him. Like it's
He's
like
stationary and the world moves.
He's on this conveyor belt.
Yeah.
It is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The way it's subtle, obviously.
Right.
It is not, and I like that about the tech too. And like the color saturation, the light, like it's so interestingly like there's that whimsy. They like add whimsy into it.
Yeah.
Where there's like they inject some of that kind of like homemade fringy feel to it, but also this kind of like this like over color saturated like indie movie feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Manic Pixie Dream Girl world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where it's almost got that like that Tim Burton, like it's dark but bright at the same time for some, I don't know. But yeah, there's something to the way they've taken these elements. They keep it really simple and they really focus on the people and just the acting. I mean, I think the woman who plays Martha is
incredible.
So good.
Incredible. She was really incredible. Yeah.
So believable. So like such a real human being, not playing a villain at all.
No.
She's like
someone you look at and you're like, I'm concerned.
Sure.
I'm really concerned.
It's that,
for this
that mix
person.
of like fear and sympathy that you feel at the same time. You're like, I feel so bad for that person, but like, I don't really think I should go up.
I don't want to do anything about it because
I don't want to
go
get caught up
badly. Yeah.
It's like that scary homeless person. You're like, clearly they're having a bad day.
Yeah.
If I get closer, are they going to hit me? I don't know.
I have no idea. Yeah.
There's something, but like having real reactions, like having real, it's like they're not proportional to what's happening, but they're
is like,
so real to her.
Right. Yeah.
Like they're like,
that proportionality.
she's like acting as if she's like built in her mind that they have a relationship.
Yeah.
So if you were to like totally believe that this person had a like a very close relationship with you, and then they acted these ways to you, you'd have, that's the way you'd respond to these. Like now that in that context, that reaction, of course, like when he's just like blowing you off, there's like a big reaction to that.
Yeah. Because she has in her mind that they are deeply in love. So why would he behave that way?
And why wouldn't she be like having a big reaction?
Right.
Well, are you cheating on me? Like that,
Yeah.
like why wouldn't that be a big reaction?
Right.
So it's so interesting.
Yeah.
I think she is so good.
Yeah, she's really great. Yeah. So this ending
Of the full.
of the full thing where it's like the last moment,
Yeah. It's very one-man show to me.
it feels very one-man show. It's like
Very
it's
theater,
full
very
circle.
poetic.
We've gotten full circle and we get to
very like
that it's like the moment he like
Eddie.
walked into the bar, I was like, oh my God, he's just gonna be
do it.
Martha.
Yeah.
And so he's like has
Such a play,
taken
like to just like do the same scene at the end as the beginning.
he's taken her place. He gets the free drink. I did have a moment though. I was like, I don't know if it worked for me as like a conclusion. I felt like it gave me like, is he telling us that he's gonna go off the rails and stalk this guy now? Is that what he's telling us?
No, I don't think it's that.
No, it could. I mean, no, it
that's
doesn't
not
have to be.
That I did not have that reaction. I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That was not what I was.
It just is.
It feels like a fun little button and wrap up. It does. It's just. It feels like a device to just be like maybe that's when he realized
We're
like
the same.
Oh, maybe we're not as different as I thought.
Or that
like,
moment of like of
recognition
of similar identity.
finally things start to click after he's been kind of like, why is all of this happening? Like, oh, maybe it's simpler than
Yeah.
like maybe this is simpler than I'm making it.
I'm sick.
A little bit.
Yeah.
That's kind of high.
Yeah. It does. It feels very like a button. It feels, there's something about it that gave me just like, is this kind of just a device? Especially because over and over, we've already seen him till that point kind of have that little bit of
he seems
an
pretty
epiphany.
Self-aware.
Yeah, he seems pretty aware that he's like, yeah, and I'm just her. Like
but like narrator him
is different than
sure character him.
Yes, I do get the sense though when he's narrating that he is from, I don't know. There's something present about him where he's like kind of talking from where he is, kind of like Cusco in in Emperor's New Groove, where it's like, well, he's narrating from the point in time where he is.
Yeah, and it's not
a little bit.
It's not that consistent, I would say.
Yeah,
I would say he does kind of go back and forth.
Yeah,
maybe not back and forth, but there's like elements of like, yes, he knows. Like, I know now, but like not that explicit. It does live more in the like, I am the version of me in that moment.
Yeah, it's like I don't necessarily.
Like
I don't
know why I did it. Like there's like those things where it does feel reflective.
Yeah.
Or like I think now that it's because I wanted it. You know what I mean?
It doesn't always feel like we're hearing from Donnie at the end.
No.
It feels like he's got one foot at the end and one foot in the moment.
I agree.
A little bit. And there's something effective about that. I'm not sure how to even like manage that. It's like such a weird place to live in.
Okay, but it's part of the like, don't tell them. I mean, it's as simple as that. Is don't tell them what they need.
Don't tell them what. Right. Yeah. Don't tell them the end.
Don't tell them the end. That's like. Yeah. We haven't gotten there yet.
Right.
They don't need to know that yet. We don't. We don't need to know my full reflection yet.
Right. Yeah.
There's an element of it where it's like, yes, I'm reflecting in it now. That's part of the storytelling, but it's not the full like.
Well, yeah. I'm at the end and I know better now.
Right.
And yeah.
I think it's as simple as that. He obviously doesn't want to give the ending.
Sure. You mentioned the confession at the stand-up.
Yes, the confession at the stand-up.
What did you think?
To see if I could find it.
Oh, the real one?
One.
Yeah,
that's like that's right. That would have to like.
It would have to theoretically be like.
It's a thing.
That's a thing, right? If that's actually how it happened or something similar, it would be just like out there.
Which is why I'm like, that's part of it where I'm like, that's already kind of, if that's, I guess I didn't look into it. I don't know. I think it's real. Like, I think that's part of it. Like, people would be saying stuff if it wasn't. You know what I mean?
I guess, unless it's like a weird Mandela effect where, because like, I remember like when coming upon that moment in the show, watching it, I was like, I kind of remember something about that in 2019 or whatever it was. And I'm like, am I just like,
but that was like,
am I like Shazamming it? Or it's just like, it's,
everything that happened between like 2016 and 2022 are a blur, total blur.
Yeah.
I wonder why. So many reasons.
So many things. I am unconvinced by his stand-up confession. And I don't know if it's like, if it happened, then it happened, right? But there's something maybe about how it was like performed that I'm just like, I don't believe you. I don't know. There was something really weird about it.
I wonder, I guess my thought was maybe like he probably performed it. Like that was my thought too. Like I think I know what you're saying where it's like, it's pretty like, it looks like kind of like mental breakdown. And I'm like, I have to confess this, where I'm like, I bet in real life he was like panicking and starts like trying to like make
kind of riffing
about it and just like,
I kind of wish that's how it was, where he was just like trying to riff and then it ended up just like kind of devolving into more of like a word vomit. It was a little too.
But there's also, I don't know, like there's something about this person who obviously is making these weird, crazy, terrible choices.
Yeah.
And just like, and is like already doing weird stand up and doesn't want to do the riff. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't want to really do that thing.
Right.
That he might be like, that he like would think it was like maybe edgy to like flip the script
Yeah.
and just like really dig into something that is really not funny.
Yeah. Very like, what's his name? Kaufman? Andy Kaufman? Is that his name? Andy Kaufman?
Like
Confirm? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Man on the Moon.
Man on the Moon. Yeah.
It's like something that's like the anti-funny.
Right. Well, yeah, which he obviously says. He's like, it's anti-comedy.
Right.
So there's something to that, which like it lines up with the like, yeah, I am okay with like leaning into these terrible things.
Yeah. And I think especially the way it's portrayed is like he's thrown off his game and he like kind of, it's so almost like premeditated, like feels so thought through.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It
does
feels
seem
like a weird place and time to have a confession like that, especially in the way that he's done it. And it feels kind of like a moment in a TV show that's like, I'm going to give my really good argument and it's going to convince you. There's something that feels disingenuous about it. It's like it's a rallying speech and it convinced everybody to do the thing.
But it's not, and that's not what it was. He wasn't convincing anyone.
No.
He walks away being like, I just
No,
blew that. But I think like I think I agree with you in that like it feels disingenuous, but it also makes me think like, do you think he has practiced that speech before? Do you think like that kind of person?
Oh my God.
Like, you know what I
So
mean
fucked
though?
up.
But like that is part of the like,
Yeah.
that like, how would I tell this story in a way, you know, like practicing it, feeling the emotion, like living in that experience, like in that way that you were like, we go back to that beginning. I think it could absolutely be that thing that he's like, he has been hanging on to this story and maybe has practiced talking about it.
Yeah.
Maybe in like, maybe I'll use this professionally. Maybe in like, when I hurt this person that I'm dating, maybe this is my excuse out of it.
Yeah.
Maybe I have this breakdown. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, and I say those things because like, I feel like, you know, going to theater school as both of us have done, like there have been moments where I'm like, how do I use this? You know what I mean? Like I have thought those things.
Oh God, it's just watching a theater kid's breakdown. Just like
But
someone who's like gone through a tragedy, but also someone who's just like,
I guess I'm wondering if part of
seeking a tragedy
I wonder
to
if
use.
part of your ick is just that same thing we talk about with like Barry.
With Barry, where I'm like, oh God, I hate these people.
You just hate
I cannot watch
It
any
is a great representation
of what theater or acting classes are like, and I hate it.
and it's uncomfortable
And I
it
cannot
feels
watch it.
yucky.
Yeah,
I wonder
I
if
am
that is
less
part of
icked out
your
by
ick
the
factor.
assassins.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's easy.
I will watch murder. It's great. But if I have to watch those theater kids play zip,
acting
zap,
class.
zop, I'm
Oh
going to
my
kill
God.
myself.
Oh
Oh,
it's
God.
it's the conversation between them.
Oh, my
in
God.
Between like did you go to that audition?
I
and you're like,
can't
you
handle it.
feel it. You feel the like.
And that's
The
I
jealousy,
think that
but also the like the sabotage and the,
Yeah.
like this is a competition, but also we're friends, but also are we like
that is
there's
I'm
an ick.
sure part of it that's bothering me. And
But it's not just those elements in the story, but like how meta that is part of the
that's
whole.
part of the whole thing. That's
So it's like
that's
that's already going to feel icky
yeah.
to you. Not that
Sure.
there aren't obviously like ethical questions
Sure.
to this storytelling and the repercussions that it's having on the real life people. That is obviously like something we should look at. But I don't think, I don't know. I think part of the heightened ick of it is that it is like, it is a little bit, anytime someone does a one-man show, there is an ego.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It just makes you think of Parker Posey and For Your Consideration.
Oh my
She does
God.
like
Parker Posey.
the penises
is
song or whatever it
wild.
is. It's like Once Upon a Penis. I don't remember what it's called, but it's so silly. It's like boobs. I was just like crazy. Anyway, yeah, one man show.
Yes. So that
that stresses me out for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that I got a little bit of that vibe of like, that was in his back pocket. In more ways than one. Like, 'cause obviously, like, the trauma of it, it's gonna keep it, like, especially since he's kind of, like, been reflecting on it and it's been kind of on the surface. But also, like, as that actor, piece of him wanting to reflect on it and wanting to kind of live in it and wanting to feel the emotions of it and wanting to, like, to preserve it in a way. There's, like, something that is so truthful about that. It is yuckier.
It's yucky. Yeah.
But it's not false. It's just,
Icky.
it's like false in a way that it's like, yeah, well, those people are really doing that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it is though, like, kind of like falsifying
That
those
falseness
things.
is real.
But that is real. That is the truth. That is the narrative that
Yes.
you're writing, because that's part of you rewrite your own narrative when you're like, want to like really lean into the heightened feelings.
Yeah.
When you go to acting school, it changes how you write your own identity. And I believe that.
Oh my God. Sure does. Yeah.
So,
Wow.
I mean, like, we've talked about a lot of things.
Yes.
In general, what did you think of, like, the series?
I thought it was pretty good.
I think it's fascinating,
Yeah.
an interesting story, and well done.
Yeah.
I think it lets us ask
Begrudgingly.
some of these questions. It lets us ask some of these, like,
Yeah.
do we think he's a good
Is
person?
it like really icky?
Do we think she's a good person?
But I am also like one of those people that's like, you know, if it's good, it's good. Like, that's too bad if they're a shitbag. It's really good, you know?
Yeah.
It's good.
It's good.
Yeah. For better or worse. It's really well done.
Yeah.
Should we do some ratings?
Ratings. The story.
Story. I give it a 5, I think. Mm-hmm.
I guess, does some of those questions that we asked at the beginning, does that affect, because you said it was attached to story,
Yeah.
or related to story.
Yeah.
If that affects your view of the story, or if you're separating that in the rating. I'm just curious.
I guess I separated from the rating that the ick comes into rewatch value for me.
Interesting.
Yeah. As far as story goes, I think I think that's the one question is about the stand-up confession, but if we're getting all meta, maybe that bumps me down to a 4.5.
That's, I guess.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. It's just like that is like the one little moment that I'm like, I don't like that. Maybe I don't like how it was performed. Maybe I don't like how it was written. I don't know. There's something about it that messes with it, especially as being like a kind of a false victory moment where it's like it's a big like plot point that he gets a lot of stuff from this thing, and we're supposed to like, you know, watch him succeed to some extent because of this. And I'm just like, it's a weird to all the people who are like in the audience. It's like, oh, you think that's funny? Former employee or coworkers that screwed my life up because you sent that email to her. But yeah, I guess
that they did reference
4.5.
Okay. I think I was also, because I was thinking about giving it a 4.5, and it's because of like some of the questions of like, what's real? Am I forgiving this because I think it was real?
Yeah.
Am I think, or is it like, but
do we give more leeway to things that might not make any sense because we've been told it's real?
Right. Which
Yeah.
is fine. I'm like, that's not what I guess I'm not really mad. Like, yes, that's kind of what I'm saying. But like, it just,
I mean, 4.5 is great.
It leaves me.
Good rating.
It's not, and it's also like it leaves me with questions about
Mhm.
like the actual things that have happened, and
Yeah.
if there were things that came out like that's not actually how it happened. Like it would like open it up a
Yeah.
little bit for me.
Okay.
And that's the only reason I would bump it down. I like as a story, I think it's like very well crafted.
Yeah. Okay. Technical.
I think it's a 5. I think the acting is very good. Like I said, I think I was noticing interesting camera work,
Mm-hmm.
but I was looking
Yeah.
for it as I was trying to be a little bit more
Noticing.
well, just like when I do believe that a lot of technical elements are like if you don't notice them, they're probably going well.
Yeah.
It's like in like Saltburn, they're extraordinary.
Yeah.
So they're like there's something that like
There's something to notice.
stand out.
Yeah.
But then there are like standout things, but they're not distracting
Right.
in the show. So I think they do kind of go above and beyond in certain ways. They're very intentional with their technical elements.
Yeah.
Including the acting.
Mhm.
I think the acting and the choices made in the acting,
Agreed.
even the things that you're saying like may not match up with real life, they're also like his like Richard's experiences and how he plays Donnie, like they're going to match up to his idea
Right.
of what happened.
Yeah.
And I think that is made clear that we're not supposed to like fully. It's fictionalized through his lens.
Yeah.
And we know that.
Yeah.
From the beginning.
Yeah, and I think I also give it a 5. I especially keying into what you were mentioning about kind of the tone, the overall kind of world that was built and directed into this, where there is a whimsy, there's a weird off-kilterness to it
Yeah.
that exists kind of beyond straight realism.
Oh yeah. And it's not straight realism.
Yeah.
Which I think like makes this watchable.
Mm-hmm. And finally,
Speaking of
rewatch
watchable.
value.
You go first. I'm curious.
I think I give it a 2. I would probably like there's something compelling about like things that I want to see about it, but I just don't know if I can. It just like makes me so uncomfortable and gives me such an ick that I like waffle back and forth. I'm like, oh, it was a good scene, but I don't know if I want to. Like I was hanging with our friend and she hadn't finished it yet. She had like 2 episodes left, and I was like hemming and hawing about whether to be like, I'll watch the last 2 episodes with you, and I decided like not to.
Sure.
There is something about like, yeah, I kind of want people to see it. I also
I want
don't
people to- I want to talk
necessarily
about it.
begrudge
'Cause I'm like-
people not seeing it.
I think I'm at like a 4.
Okay.
I'm like pretty, it's like, I just am really fascinated by like the true crimey stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch a lot of it because like
No.
there isn't, like I listened to like My Favorite Murderer for a long time, and I'm like, I need a break. It's just a lot sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think if I started back up, I would like
Really
spend a good couple
dive
weeks
deep.
and just like
Mm.
do that until I did it again.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would. I think
am-
the actress that
I-
plays Martha, I'm like, I would rewatch her.
So excellent.
Yeah.
There are some definitely hard to watch things.
Yeah.
But I don't know, now that like I'm through it, it doesn't feel like unwatchable.
Yeah.
There's a couple. I mean,
There's a few things that
It
I'm
gets
like,
pretty.
but they're short. They're not,
Yeah,
most
they
of them are
don't
not
linger
that-
on them. They
linger
don't
too
make
long.
it about that
Yeah.
in ways that I'm like, I never need to watch Game of Thrones again. Even though there's like not as many of those moments, but like they're worse and they're
Well, and
poorly done,
knowing
and I
that it
don't like
ends so badly, I don't
I don't
need to
care. I don't
start
care
it
about Game of
again.
Thrones ever. Like,
And
I don't need to
that's,
see that
I guess
ever
that's
again.
what's a little different about this. It's like knowing that it's like such a clean, complete package. I'm reluctant to
That
give it a
is
1.
nice too.
Because it's like, it'll be satisfying at the end.
And I literally want to tell everyone. I want to talk about it with like
Yeah.
everyone. I'm so curious to see what people know, and I want to. I don't know if this is part of it, but I'm like, I'm invested in news stories that come out about it, and you know what I mean. Like that is that
Yeah.
part of it? Like is that?
Yeah, a little bit. I would say
And
probably
then like
is.
wanting to compare this with the thing, like wanting to go back and forth and compare. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's part of it.
Well, if you find
in
anything
this one.
new about it, send it to me, and I'll do the same. Because I'm like, I might be curious, I guess, to know more.
Yeah,
But I'll decide if I want to read it. I'm like keeping it at arm's length.
nothing's like that. Been that crazy, but like especially with Martha having that interview or Fiona.
Yeah,
Fiona
Fiona. Oh man, that's so uncomfortable. Let's move on to superlatives.
Let's do it.
All right, Oscar moment.
Oscar moment.
Oscar worthy. I think. I mean, I'm gonna give it to Martha in the first scene, or like in that first montage where we have that montage of her like changing the outfits, and like we just see her over time, just like coming every day, and like all the crazy things she says. I think that is my Oscar-worthy moment for her.
There's so many. I mean, she has so many moments. I'm like, I don't know. There was a scene where she's like, she won't let go of his hand. She's like, Matt, like, give me names.
Yeah.
Something like so eerie about it.
Yeah.
That you're like, oh God.
There's like one of the flips is like when she's at the show and she's singing.
Say when she's like, those moments where she's in the audience in the shows, there's something so, she's so like, this like endearing, but also scary.
Especially knowing that he's gonna like, you know, treat her as a heckler and like pretend like she's a stranger. I'm like, oh my God, this is not gonna go well. Oh God, oh God, oh God.
But she takes it in stride. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird.
So maybe it's either, I'll give it. I mean, it's to
her,
that actress, but like
with her flips,
like those flips, those like
her quick turns, quick emotional turns. Like, yeah,
which is, I mean, that's not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unearned moment.
As much as I like the moment, but there's something like, maybe it's real life, maybe it's too convenient. It's like a sweet moment. Like I like that it's there, but it's when he's like, essentially like his confession on the video comes out and he wants to tell his parents before like they just like find out through the grapevine or see the video on the internet. And essentially he's like, I had this experience where like I was sexually abused by this older gentleman and I was afraid to tell you because I thought you'd see me as less of a man.
Yeah.
And the dad goes, do you see me as less of a man?
Right.
And he
insinuates,
says, I grew up in the Catholic Church.
Right.
And I'm like, there's something about that. I'm like, I'm glad they keep it simple and short.
Yeah.
But something about that moment, I'm like, it's not quite hitting me right.
Right.
It's not
feels a little bit convenient.
It feels a little poetic. It feels a little contrived. It's like
one-man show.
Yes.
Yeah, it does a little bit.
It's not quite.
Like, is that real? I don't know. It might be, but it still feels
It's
feels
like, it
convenient.
could be absolutely real.
Yeah, of course. It does. It feels there's something poetic about it that I'm like, I don't know.
It's almost like so poetic that I'm like, it just like took me out. I'm like, I like it. It's a sweet moment, and they kept it like. I'm glad they like kind of like they do it. They have a moment. They don't linger on it. But it did like I did go.
Yeah,
that's my moment. That's the one that like sticks out.
It reminds me of Noah's Ark. Did you ever watch Noah's Ark?
No,
it's
that
like
terrible
gay show.
Yeah,
like
and I've seen
they called it like black gay Sex and the City, but it's like really more like black gay Golden Girls with fewer jokes. It's like campy like that, but it's there's like a weird moment where one of the characters is like has like an HIV scare, and he's like, oh, what if I have it? And he's like talking with this nurse at the thing that he's like has a crush on. It's like, what if I have it? Are you still gonna like me? And he says, yeah, it'll be fine. And it's like, are you sure? And the nurse looks to him, takes his hand, and says, "No, I'm positive."
Vomit. I hate that. I hate that so much.
And I was like, "Oh my God.
It's cheesy.
Oh, it's
like-
cheesy. There's something cheesy about it almost." And it's
which,
like,
weirdly,
it
would
feels-
happen in real life,
yeah,
but, like,
right.
is yucky.
Yeah, it just, there's something, it's almost like it like feels weird to say, but like that story about like the dad having grown up in the Catholic Church, it feels cheesy almost. There's like something like,
It feels
cheesy. Yeah.
It feels cliche,
Yeah.
which, like, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's really,
That's unfortunate that it feels cliche.
Sure. Yeah.
That is,
I'm like, oh, of course
terrible.
you were.
but, like, if he was, then, like,
then I'm like,
that's
"Ooh," right.
also horrible.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, what's yours? Is it just
I think
the speech,
there's I don't know if I guess I think it's the speech. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. I didn't.
Yeah.
I just assumed.
It is a little bit unearned just from the performance for me. It just doesn't land quite.
I think it is well performed, and I think maybe that's why it is.
It's performed.
Sure.
That's kind of what I don't know. It does.
I know
It
what
feels
you
like a
mean, though.
performance. I'm just like, it doesn't feel like a breakdown. I'm just, I needed it to be different to really land for me.
Yeah, I think it's performed well as a breakdown. I just don't think it being a breakdown reads
Yeah.
to you.
Right. Because there's nothing really wrong with the moment. Otherwise, like, it's an important plot point, and it's
Obviously,
like
yeah.
we need it for the story to continue.
Yes.
It's just like as it's happening, I'm like, this is going on for a long time, and there's a lot of pauses, and I don't know. I'm just
Sure.
next. Ooh, best secret ally, and secret villain. This is a story of secret allies and secret villains.
Okay. Sure. You go. Okay. Just so I know exactly
Okay.
what you mean.
Yeah. So we've got like these.
I mean, just tell me who yours is. And
Okay, my best secret ally or villain. My best secret villain is the trans girlfriend.
Okay.
What a horrible therapist she would be.
Oh, yeah. Well.
And just like kind of the psychoanalyzing of him. It's just like, there's something really not right about that relationship in general, and
Yeah,
how she
absolutely.
behaves in it is just like not good. And it's like the things that she says to him and about him, and like all this like psychoanalyzing, and I'm like, this is all messed up.
And, like, obviously all of that happens outside of her therapy work.
Sure.
So it's like, yes, if she brought that into her therapy work, but we know that people don't.
Of course.
People
Yeah,
aren't
yeah,
their
yeah.
full professional selves in relationships.
Of course.
Where people are being
No, and
also shitty to them. You know what I
right,
mean?
but even
of course, like, but it's not excusing.
it's not excusing that she's like bringing her professionalism into her insults.
No,
and,
but that.
but even more so, it's just for much of it, I imagine her to be kind of like a victim of his.
Right.
He abuses her to some extent, like he like mistreats her,
Yeah, I mean,
and then
it's very clearly a shitbag to her.
yeah, and
But
then they reconcile, and I'm like, oh, it's like she's actually going to be an ally in his journey, and then it turns out it just like she kind of is not convinced. She just like is not on his side really in the end. She does not have any kind of sympathy for it, and she's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
She's got her own reasons for
rightfully
sure.
so.
Yeah.
I honestly,
she's been attacked. She's the one that's been attacked, etc. And it's just
I really don't begrudge that choice, but it is
she is not actually an ally. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Narratively,
right.
I don't know if this counts, but like I guess the investigator. Especially like the woman who was like asking him questions, especially, I mean, like, I know it's like just doing her job, but like when she walks in and she's like, I'm going to ask you these questions.
Do you want a lawyer?
And then she's like, here's all the recordings that Martha sent us of all the things that you said.
Yeah.
So, and then
You gotta
essentially
be
was
careful.
like,
Yeah.
I'm not helping you anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. This is for your own good.
Leave me alone now. And it's like, whoa.
Mhm.
Like, I guess like the way the law, the police and everyone helping out, just either incompetent or like tied by arbitrary rules.
Right.
So it's like the system of law is like, oh, he was avoiding it for so long, but then when he actually goes
Through
like,
with it, they're like useless.
because there's like, yeah, there was the intake cop, but then also the cop that comes to his parents' house, who is like
Incompetent.
also an
completely.
idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. Really does not portray law enforcement as particularly competent there.
No.
Is that your secret villain?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially that woman who sets it up was like, I'm finally here to help.
Yeah.
She is competent,
Yeah.
but also like,
But she's got her hands tied. Yeah.
Yeah.
Secret ally. I think I'd give it to the ex-girlfriend.
yeah,
She ends up kind of like
all the girlfriends, I guess.
I know all the girlfriends. The girlfriend's villain, and it's like it's the flip because it's like you would expect that to be like a
Well, because he
contentious-
also makes her life. She puts her and her mom in danger, direct danger.
Mhm. And she still comes back and gets him and says, "I really think you should move back in with my mom." Seeing how much he's in pain, she really cares about him.
Yeah,
Especially because she learns that's like all that stuff that was happening
right.
with that producer,
That was
that writer
while
was
they
like
were-
while they were dating. And
I
she's
mean,
like,
she-
oh my
I know
God,
she
that's what was
obviously knows
happening.
that,
You were
yeah.
like, yeah, she knew that they were getting high, but like now she's like, oh my God, it was like you were stuck,
Yeah.
you know, to some extent. And I'm not going to like get back together with you, but
No, it's not about that, obviously. But
you know, and he kind of took the place of her brother a little bit, and it's like he
right.
became like a second son
I mean,
to
yeah, that's,
mom. Yeah. So yeah,
yeah,
that's
interesting.
one secret ally.
As much as I made it my unearned moment, I'm gonna say the dad,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because they say like
they set
They
it up
set
as
him
he's
up-
like this like hard ass.
yeah,
and
just
he's
like the normal, like the dad's the hard ass, and then he's not a
Right.
hard ass really in the
Yeah.
end. And like we're only seeing bits and parts of it. He never like really describes him as a hard ass and like that he
Sure.
will be like this.
We
Just
just
like
kind of-
in that situation, he's like acting like this. So
Yeah.
we assume.
And we just assume he's going to be like, if he ever comes out as something other than just perfectly straight, he's going to be this like person. But he's just like,
very,
no,
like
I love you, of course.
yeah, blue collar Scottish man. You just
Yeah.
assume, and it's
Right.
just like not. And he's like, when his parents are waving to him goodbye on the train.
Oh my
it's very
God,
sweet.
it's very it's about your trans girlfriend. It's very funny. That's a
Yes.
very funny scene. I forgot about that. That's so funny. They're just like
It's
waving
very
to him through the
cute.
window. It's adorable.
Which is like part of why I like don't hate the moment.
Yeah.
Before,
Yeah.
but like, yes.
All right. Let's see.
It was like, what about like
Oh.
the thing we're most mad at him
the
about?
most infuriating hero moment.
Yeah, because he has clearly done terrible
Such terrible things.
things.
You go first.
I mean, like, oh, there's so many.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say, I'm reluctant to say when he sleeps with Martha, even though I think that's like really the worst thing that happens in the whole series.
I have a question. Does he actually? Does he actually
Yes.
sleep with Martha, or was that him playing it in his mind?
I
I totally forgot to even look up
assume
that it just happened, right?
that it happened.
I convinced myself that it didn't.
That's okay.
Comment in the comments wherever to let us know what you think. Did he actually sleep with Martha? I think he would have been in much bigger trouble had he. I thought it was like in that series of like
so
him
many-
watching porn and stuff, and then
but there was like those moments after where he's like, Martha didn't say anything else, right?
yeah, but he was talking about because like he was expecting her to give a message and he was missing the message, not because he was afraid she was going to blab on him. I interpreted that he's asking about, like, wait, you mean she didn't have anything to say to me? Nothing? Didn't? That's weird. She always has something to say. She didn't say anything?
I thought there was moments where he was like, she didn't say anything, right?
Yeah,
Maybe I just read them.
I don't think he actually.
Got to rewatch it.
I know, Jesus. I don't think he actually did it. There's something about the way it cut that I was like, oh, are we? That was in his imagination, and now we're like back at the beginning. Like, he's like thinking about her. We'll have to rewatch it.
I'm interested.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I don't like that. That feels very obvious, I guess. To me.
If that'd be pretty obvious if that was real. Yeah.
I think when he goes to the police originally and doesn't immediately say, "This woman just attacked this other woman.
Mm-hmm.
This woman just like attacked us."
Mm-hmm.
Because why isn't that the first thing? Why is that not what you're reporting?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he lies about it later, but I'm like, you should have done that 100 times.
Yeah.
Like, that person's in direct danger.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a thing that gets people arrested.
Yeah.
So why didn't that happen? Yeah. That's like a thing that I'm like
if you're
I can't
actually
believe
looking
you did that
to
in
do
real
that,
life. Like, I can't believe someone got attacked.
And you didn't just say, like, this person got attacked.
And while you're going to, like, you want to get rid of your stalker and you're now about to report them as a stalker and you don't immediately talk about the attack that happened the day before?
Yeah.
Why didn't both of you just go to the police station then?
Right. Because he convinced her not to.
Which I at least understand that piece of it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, let's calm down. Let's get you, like, there's a lot of reasons why you might do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think I was very frustrated by that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, there's so many reasons why you would.
Right. Oof. I think I'm most frustrated by his going back to the producer, probably, or that writer, when he like goes back to like confront him, and like is just like, okay, I don't know. There's something. I'm just like, get away from. Why are you even there? You just had this whole epiphany about how horrible it was. Get away from there. It's like very frustrating, and it's like, and it's very like common behavior, like return to the abuser. Like it is like a frustrating and really real moment. They're like, no, get away from there.
Well, I think it's, yes, very frustrating and just like fascinating, because I'm like, is he going to like yell at him?
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to like extort him? Is he going to, and it's like,
he just like wanted,
I don't know.
I don't know
what
he wanted. I don't know what he wanted. Yeah.
I don't even know if he knows what he wanted.
Yeah. And I'm just like,
maybe
he's lucky that he didn't. Maybe, yeah. And I'm like,
whatever that means, and maybe he didn't fully, but like, oh, I feel like I should.
Or he thought he would have gotten closure and he didn't. Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Something, yeah. We really should work together. Blah, blah. Awful.
It's yucky.
Yeah.
I mean, that scene is horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, it's just like, it might be the worst. One of the hardest scenes to watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wouldn't be hard to watch a second time, but it is hard to watch the first time because you're like,
you don't know what's happening.
What the fuck is happening?
We didn't mention it. There's spoilers. So
there's so many spoilers. We might want to like talk about, like, make a little content warning.
Oh, yeah.
Before this one. We
yeah. You're probably right.
Do some.
We'll just record that right after this.
Do a little content warning.
Do you want to do a sympathetic villain moment?
Oh,
like,
I mean, like
opposite.
when we talk
it's
about,
like with Martha.
Oh, sure, sure.
Like what's her most, like, the moment that you're like kind of melt a little bit with her?
I think she like hugs him while they talk at the beginning. But was also like, we're friends. Mm-hmm. I get it. We're friends.
Yeah.
And like hugs him and like clearly like has this connection with him and just like does what she thinks she needs to keep that connection with him. And it's very sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's that just like the hug. And he's not mad. You know, it's a genuine interaction between them.
Yeah. I think for me it's during like the sentencing when she's like kind of breaking down.
Yeah.
There's a sense that I get with it's just like she kind of like didn't. There's a sense there where it's like, I mean, he kind of goaded her into this in a lot of ways, where he wasn't. I mean, some of the other infuriating moments of his, where he's like, every time he could explicitly be like, no, he didn't. He would always hedge. The hedge monster would rear its head. And all that does is make her be like, oh, so there is hope. So there is. So it, you know, you keep. It's maybe more extreme because in her mind, but it's like by the time we're at the sentencing, she's just like, I thought something else was happening.
Yeah.
And that's like the moment where you really kind of get the sense where you're like, oh, she's not just like, oh, I'm so sorry. I was doing bad things. She's like, no, I'm like, she's wrong. Like she has like a wrong view of what was happening, but what was happening in her mind was something completely else. And she's just been like, had the rug ripped out from under her. And it's really sad.
It's sad. It's not the first time.
Yeah.
So there's like, it doesn't feel like
it's not a repudiation of hers.
No.
Yeah.
It's like how, it's just sad. It is sad.
It's sad.
Again, I think that actress does very well.
Really well. Yeah.
In not making it feel like, I'm
a monster.
No, this is not what it is at all.
Right. Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, it's a doozy for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of, our social media maven is in the room with us here.
Oh, hello.
Kaylee, hello.
Just waving off camera. So.
Anyway, I think we're gonna wrap up.
Okay.
What? That's the name of the company, right? The doozy. What is it?
Yeah,
Doozy LLC. It's Doozy LLC. We're plugging Doozy LLC. If you need help with your social medias,
you're gonna plug.
Please look up Doozy LLC.
There you go.
But this series was a doozy for sure. And we hope that you enjoyed this episode and come back for the next one, please. Thanks for listening / watching Two Grooms, One Plot. You can catch us wherever you find your podcasts. You can find us on YouTube and see our beautiful faces. Follow us on the social medias. Subscribe wherever you can. Thanks to Chicago Podcast Studio. Thanks to Doozy LLC for all of the social media help. And we'll see you back here next time. I am Pavi Proczko. And remember, theater kids are insufferable. So sorry on behalf of all of us.
That's true. And I'm Colin Funk. And remember, if someone gives you a free cup of tea, that doesn't mean you're in a relationship.
Or does it? Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Two Grooms, One Plot, a Pavitas Productions project, hosted by Colin Funk and Pavi Proczko. This podcast was produced by Chicago Podcast Studio. Our opening cartoon was created by Gloriu, and our theme song was composed by me, Pavi Proczko. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite listening platform. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Two Grooms, One Plot for updates on new episodes and behind-the-scenes content. If you have any feedback, comments, concerns, or kudos, you can email us at twogroomsOneplot@gmail.com. Please rate and review us wherever you can. It would help us out a bunch. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.